Okay, good afternoon. This is the quick video to just walk you through how to review and approve the WebEOC requests as a branch director. So I'm just at the main screen, like when you would go to log in at WebEOC. And if we go to log in, it's going to bring you to your username and password section. You complete that as normal and click login. This is always going to bring you to the last thing that you logged in as. So last time I logged in as the EOC branch director. So that's what it's going to bring up. I'm going to put my normal position in there so I can show you how to change that on the inside of the WebEOC login. So this is what would normally come up. You would typically just hit continue. It's going to make you verify your information and again, click continue. So that's going to bring you into your main screen of WebEOC. So typically we just use about two things in here, the sign in, sign out, and number 5, which is the the resource request and task assignment. Today, we're going to focus on just this regional resource request and task assignment. So right now, I'm logged in as the Ops Section Chief. So for you guys, you might be logged in as your specific branch director or specific title that's associated with your WebEOC. What you want to do is to check your WebEOC requests and approve them. You want to click on this down arrow right here, and then we are going to change it to this Austin Travis County EOC branch director. This is going to be the same for all of you, no matter what your branch is, you're all logging into the same one. That takes you back to this main page. Okay, so what you're going to do is go back here, go back to your resource request, task assignment, and then it's going to bring up this page. So I want you to notice right now, it always starts at show all, and view all. Notice there's 144 pages and it's very difficult to find what you're looking for. So I highly recommend changing this My Items to My Assignments. And then in the status, show all. You can leave this the same for this branch director, or if you want to look at the ones that say assigned, that is going to bring only things that need to be approved that have not been moved on at this point. That's going to bring up everything that's been approved. So everything got approved this morning, except for this one that I just put in, which is the test WebEOC request that I wanted to be able to talk you through a couple of things. So first thing here, you notice this is a resource request, not a task assignment. So the difference between the two, resource request is asking for stuff, task assignment is asking for something to happen, okay? And then basically your mission name, I believe that Peter has developed like facility codes. So that can help you narrow down which ones are assigned to you, or there should be something in there, like if it's for the Pro Lodges or ISOFAC, or so if you just kind of get familiar with which things you're over, you can probably skim through the mission names pretty quickly to determine which things are for you. The originator, this is who put in the request, and those don't always have a lot of rhyme and reason, so probably not going to help you a ton. And then the assigned to, everything in there when you change this to My Assignments should say Austin Travis County EOC branch director. And again, just be mindful that this is not just for one branch. This is going to include social services. It's going to include public health and medical. It's going to include public safety. All the different branches are going to be in this one area. This is how fast they need it, the time due based on how fast they need it, and then this is the current status. If you have changed this status up here to assigned, it will only show those. If you leave it at show all, it could show any of these that are sitting at the EOC branch director level right now. So the first thing you want to do is click on the view or comment section. That'll bring up the request and allow you to review it before you do anything to it. So if you go through here, just looking at who requested it, contact information, hopefully they've put 2 people in here, not just one. Making sure they have a phone number and an email so that if logistics has a question about it, that they are able to contact someone. The next thing you want to look for is this request task details section. So this is where the mission name is the same thing that would have shown up on the shortened screen on the first screen that we looked at. This detailed description right here is where most of the information is that you're going to need to make sure that's correct or is relevant for COVID or is applicable to the current operational objectives. Okay, so in here, I just kind of went through a couple of things and I'll just go over them real quickly with you. So this request I basically just created to show you this. So in here, this example of what might be in this section. So in this section, you want to look for a detailed description of the request. This request should include how the request is related to the COVID response specifically. And then the basic justification should also include why is it needed, and how it's relevant to our current operational objectives. Obviously, some of those things are very obvious and we don't have to spell them out every time, but some, so like the isolation facility or the testing or prologes, all of those at this point are established, and 10 years from now, if somebody goes back and looks at this request, it's easy to connect the dots. If it's something a little more obscure, or not part of our normal day-to-day kind of things that are going on, then we might need a little bit more justification in here. This section should also describe what is being asked for specifically, very specifically, and how many of them. This section also might include if this request is being entered for tracking purposes only, this tracking purposes only. So what's going on right now is several departments and different groups are being asked to source things internally through their own department purchasing workflow, and that's okay, but they're still being required to put in WebEOC requests to get that authorization to attach to the purchase. So it maintains visibility at the EOC level for the purchase to occur, but then they might be asked to go back and source it internally through their departments. If that happens, it should note in here that there's no logistics action necessary, that this is for tracking purposes only, okay? So these are things that might be purchased or sourced at the department level, but they're just asking permission to purchase them, okay? So it should note somewhere in there, no logistics action necessary, this is for tracking purposes only, something like that, okay? Also, down here, just a little bit below this, there is a green box that comes up right below this description when you, right between these two boxes right here, when you enter this, and it says, is this for a resource? When they click that box, that's what generates the number to be an RR versus a TR. And it will also open up this resource detail section here for them to fill out. Logistics has not required them to fill this section out. However, some people do. If they fill this section out, it's just really important to make sure that these pieces of information here reflect what's up in the details section, because a lot of times they don't. And so then it confuses logistics and we've got to go back and forth. So just as your cursory initial look at these resource requests, that's the kind of thing we also need you to check too and kind of get that back to the originator if it needs to be corrected. Coordinating instructions in here, we're going to look, this is a good place to note whether something's going to be picked up or delivered. If it's going to be delivered, it's a good place to put in there that it can be delivered Monday through Friday between 8 and 5, or when somebody's going to be there to accept it. If it's expecting delivery, the delivery location needs to have an address. Even if it's for something that is routine, it's good to have the address in there so that if it's somebody new in logistics, that is going to be running stuff out there, they've got that at hand, they don't have to look it up. So then this is just kind of timestamp and date information that happens automatically. You don't really mess with this section here. But the attachment section. So county requests are required to go through a specific approval process prior to coming to WebEOC. So if this is a specific county request, then this should have some type of an approval email attached that would show you that Blake or Eric or somebody on the county side had approved that. I believe Fred is also approving those. Okay, so you say, hey, this looks great, we're good to go, we're going to move this on. So the next thing you want to do is create a record down here in the notes. Oh, excuse me, not this one. Down at the very bottom, there's two places down here. So this first one's for deployments. We're not going to do that. We want to create a record in the comments. So create a record here. You would say branch director or something. I'm just going to use you, Chief Stewart. Chief Stewart approved, which it's going to add your name up there. So if you just want to say branch director approved, whatever, just something to note that you've looked at it and to tell us who was the one that approved it, because it is going to be generic up here. So it would be best if you did include your name, just so if there was a question about it, or you might have had another discussion on the back end that somebody needed to follow up about, it would be best if you would put your name in here that you were the one that approved it. Okay. Like I say, I think it's going to show you there, but just in case. Okay. Hit save. And then you'll notice it's still sitting in our queue, but down at the bottom, it includes the note that got put in. So the really important thing to remember here is your comments have to be put in prior to sending it on to the ops section. If you send it to ops section, you don't have access to include the record anymore. It's not going to show up in your queue anymore. So then we said, okay, we're good to go. We're ready to send this on. You actually have to push the edit button here. It's going to make it editable. Also, this is a good place. If you've had a conversation with the person that requested this and it just needs one little detail change, or you would like to add in something or whatever, you can edit it and change it here. Okay. But your primary thing that you need to do is come down here and you're going to leave it assigned. Don't change the status, but you do want to change who it's assigned to. So at this point, you're going to do a drop down and you want to change it and send it on to the EOC operations section chief would be the next level of approval in the workflow. So you're going to find the Austin Travis County Ops section chief, click on that, and then you're going to save it. Once you save it, it's gone. Okay, it will take it off of your queue. It may show up here for right now because it has not refreshed at this point. And to refresh it, you can simply click this search button with nothing in the search field, and then it goes away. It shows you that it moves to the operations section chief. At that point, it will show up in our queue. So I'm going to scooch over to the operations section chief. It takes me back here. And then same thing, you will see that it now shows up, because I'm the operations section chief, it now shows up in our work queue. Okay, so here it is. Test branch director approval, and there's all those ones that we need to send over now that they're in ours. But here's that resource request. And at this point, we would come in, we would do the same thing. We come through here, we would review everything, make sure we're good to go. And then we would create another record that said ops approved it. This also helps if you have multiple people. So for ops, we do this like this so that the other people in the ops section can see who's looked at it and who's approved it. If we had some other notes about it or conversations that we had about the request, then we would include those here as well. So then we're going here, probably need to write down that number so I can actually close this one out. And then we would come down, and from operations, we actually leave it as assigned as well. And then we would send it over to the logs support unit. And then logs would handle it as usual. Okay, so that's basically how to do it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to logistics or to someone in operations. Thank you so much.